Okay, so back to the brain anatomy. So hopefully, studying a little bit about the neurons clarified what they are and what the synapses are. So the brain itself has 1,000. Every neuron forms 1,000 synapses. So you're gonna multiply 85 billion by 1,000 synapses. That's how many synapses we have in our brain. Um, To summarize the functions of the brain receives sensations from body parts. For example, the sensation of touch, the sensation of taste, and the sensation of vision would be examples of the sensations. The brain analyzes sensations. We are not able to make sense of the sensations if the brain is not able to analyze the sensations and say, okay, this tastes sweet, for example. The brain makes decisions. It controls body movements and activities, records memories, produces thoughts, dreams, emotions, and personality traits. Okay, so when it comes to the brain anatomy, it is made out of two halves. The halves of the brain are called hemispheres, and between them there is a gap called longitudinal fissure. The surface of the brain is convoluted, so you can see it's got these kind of like wrinkles or folds that are going in different curved directions. So these convolutions are called gyri, or gyrus for singular. This is kind of what they look like. They are folds on the surface of the brain. So this is the top of the fold right here, the gyrus, and the gaps between the folds are called sulci or sulcus. So these gaps are called sulci. The surface of the brain is covered by the membranes that I mentioned earlier. They're called meninges, and you can see a little bit of the meninges right here. Looks kind of like saran wrap. It's peeled off from the surface of the brain. This is what the brain looks like without meninges. This is where the meninges are located. So this is meninges. Meninges are made out of 3 layers: dura mater, most superficial; arachnoid mater, the middle one; and pia mater, the very deep one. So this is what you're looking at, is pia mater. There's going to be more layers of the meninges on top of the brain. Pia mater is this really thin, looks like saran wrap. It has blood vessels connected to the brain that bring oxygen and remove waste products from the brain. This is a view of pia mater. Pia mater creates kind of like a shiny layer on top of the brain. Looks like saran wrap. It has blood vessels in it. Okay. Then the dura mater and arachnoid mater are fused together in the brain into one layer. And dura mater means the tough layer. Arachnoid mater means spider web looking like, kind of like a mesh looking like layer. And this is the dura mater. It's kind of like got like this whitish color to it. Here's a diagram of the meninges on the surface of the brain, also showing protection of the brain by other parts. So first we have the skull bones. You can see the sutures between them, spongy bone inside, compact on the outside. Under the cranial bone, we have dura mater, this kind of like cream beige colored layer. It's actually made out of 2 layers. 2 layers of dura mater. Okay, one layer follows the inside of the skull, and a second layer follows the first layer, the superficial layer. But whenever it comes to the longitudinal fissure, the gap between the 2 brain halves, it folds inwards and it covers the surface of the brain. So the superficial layer of dura mater follows the inside of the skull, and the deeper layer of dura mater follows the surface of the brain. When these 2 layers have a little space between them, that space gets filled with venous blood that gets collected from the brain. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Under the dura mater, we have arachnoid mater. Is this white stuff that follows the dura mater. And it's got these little ligaments that connected to the last layer, the pia mater, the very, very thin layer that connected to the brain. So there's actually going to be a small gap between the arachnoid and pia mater, and that's going to be where the cerebrospinal fluid is located, between the pia mater and arachnoid mater. And pia mater has blood vessels in it, so blood vessels are going to be under the arachnoid mater. And under the pia mater, there's going to be brain. So to review this, from superficial to deep, there's going to be skull bones, dura mater, arachnoid mater, pia mater, and then the brain. The space between the pia mater and arachnoid mater, so deep to arachnoid mater, there is a space called subarachnoid space. And this space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid, indicated in blue. So that fluid is around the brain hemispheres, around other brain parts, around the spinal cord, and it's even inside of the brain itself. Cerebrospinal fluid is acronym CSF. We're going to learn about ventricles of the brain shortly. Ventricles of the brain is where cerebrospinal fluid is produced, and those are spaces inside of the brain, so deep to the brain matter. The blood around the brain, when it circulates around the brain, it gets collected and drained back to the heart. The way it gets drained from the brain is through dural venous sinuses. So in the picture from before, where we saw the two layers of dura mater separating from each other, like this is called dural venous sinus. This is where venous blood is collecting. Venous blood is the blood that needs to be returned back to the heart. It's depleted of oxygen, and it contains the waste products that the brain could get toxicity from. So that blood needs to be removed. So this is the dural venous sinuses. The dural venous sinuses, there's quite a few of them. The largest one is along the midline of the brain, and this is called the internal jugular vein that drains it back to the heart. I'm going to go back to this picture later. I want to review the anatomy of the brain because